This is the Metaphysic Snowman. This is be used to teach about the Trinity, how the ancients used to teach it, not through anything I've read, but through decipher. We're gonna decipher, and then we're gonna use various books with definitions of English grammar. I'm gonna show how English grammar is not imperfect. It's being taught imperfect. It's a nature correlation system, and in other words, this A through W. This is with this. I don't have the pic. I don't have the link. There's a link somewhere. There's art online. One of them is on the Yale website. They have a picture of the capital A, capital W on both sides of the halo, which is with cipher. Which cipher is to be deciphered. In other words, it's not spoke direct. Why? Because the conversation had to be hid. Why? Because education sciences were already criminally engineered. Why? Because it was already criminal engineer using them as tools. What does that do? Only lets legal natures, the most sophisticated, only lets them contain sophistications, natures and roles in relationship to wrongdoers, in relationship to criminal enterprise. Criminal enterprises with juxtapositions of other criminals. In other words, an archetypal criminal enterprise. This is most logically what the devil is. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a police force. I'm not a criminal. And so there are proofs that the colon, which is a punctuation mark for English grammar, that was renamed. In other words, each of the sciences are obfuscated to stay multi-front obfuscations to proper facts treatments needed to free human standards. Business won't do it. Never. Unchanging positive is a value that wants to work bottom up. It loves bottom up. The New York game is what I want to do. I want to give it value. In other words, make this understood. Make a cartoon about. So in other words, so you listen to me, and so it gets in. But we have to do it logistically, counter to get everyone on the same page to understand the nature of organized crimes, of crime, organized to the nature of what you that use terror laws. Not by blaming kings that were extorted by it too. This is an interscience nature of organized crime with human logic. Sabotage, ratiocination sabotaged, correlation sabotaged. And we're going to reveal proofs of it and write history too. We're going to give this value to people too. Because history, we can write history. We're going to take it and we're going to use points of correlation that prove lies in insidiousness with summary convictions with American history only let. And how? And what lies and delusions are with that only let with our standardized American history not are only let compromised because we didn't understand that our founders began from retreats, only a method to free speech that we failed to let protract. Lo, the same justifications of power and non-facts and top-down lies forced. Understand something too. This nature of organized crime, it is worse than prejudice. What is actively and consciously exploiting finite body of value and top-down lies, actively upon all areas, like urban areas especially, in relationship to the same positions and natures of organized crime with urban areas, suburban areas. But all legal natures fail to understand this per proofs known. But we're not correlating. See, none. That's what we're going to do. So we have to put we're going to show unchanging truths that we know are true, that they failed. For example, in relationship to describe our founders, the terror of them, the forced terror negotiations on our founders from entrenchments, and in relationship to the narratives forced with the pilgrims and with religion, for example, and then with these narratives against extreme Islam, multi-front, with positions that the Quran warns against. No, because the Quran in the Old Testament, these religions understood that human education was already criminally engineered and the laws were already criminally re-engineered. So do more than theory. So we're going to show how theory is with lies and physical delusions, and then we'll take counter positions with that, because all the facts, because we're going to reveal facts treatments improper, not good enough, with standards. And so how are we going to, in other words, we're going to have to see things through correlation, because we're going to have to understand what criminal insidiousness is. In other words, they kept not only the Native Americans' education lost and tricked and hurt, described other, only remembered other, and their landscape only remembered other, and their value systems are enforced with insidiously forced shared policing natures and agreements with that, with huge penalties for breaking them. In other words, we have original terror negotiations in relationship to what originally forced with terror us into criminally shared markets positions. Every nation. That's how all modern nations, that's when I say that. It's not just to make words, it's to say all modern nations lost the same nation. Science corruption. Science is corruption. And that only left facilitated legal natures um, captive to needs to tell lies and to defend lie progressions, illusion progressions, using the exploit of being the top down ones, only with the most proper education, but us in them with only let self-defended justifications of breached education and of lies, of breaching lies needs, and delusions needs, and indifference needs, with summary convictions of American history, and with summary convictions with morality. For example, we could say this in relationship to poverty. It's why we lost the war on poverty. It's why we lost the revolution on many fronts, because we never understood what revolution was. It's easy to say that's why in England, when they cheered us for the revolution, because we had the same enemy. We have the same one today. These campuses, these kids from the streets, they know these campuses fail them. And how? Because all share these guys not by accident, guys, and everyone's opinions are not honest in relationship to the morality that is being pretended and being only let trained realize. In other words, when we have these problems with these guns, and then we have the reaction natures of the society. This is the way they're using the campuses, and the way they're insulating live progressions, in the way we have all kinds of legal natures and police forms, even ones that have medical degrees, with the phenomena of all the physical delusions and improper and original terror positions with psychology tied to a courts, not by accident, in multi-nation and with market positions. So they have people's lives invested on it and values system invested. These are the same methods that had color in the laws and had the laws in the medicine used even to make the Native American tribes first not even remember their education and be imparted. They have facts treatments with lies and physical delusions right in our face. Every time they give summaries, conviction history of saying that Native Americans weren't here because there's not physical proofs. There's physical proofs. And every time they say that, That's in relationship to the criminal insidiousness, in relationship to the nature of organized crime that we need to understand. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a police form, but demonstrably religions are demonstrating that and how we have to attend to to the lies. Uh, that correlation can reveals. So understand the metaphysical snowman. The colon, we're gonna call it the victory. It connects two independent natures of consciousness. Independence is a nature of the fusion, three ways. And this is the Trinity. It is the unchanging, is the fusion of itself as an unchanging value that is progressively so also. And it is as a nature longing as itself and longing longing towards is only positive identity. It's unchanging positive identity. The nature it will not go beyond. And when we go outside of its range here, that forces negative value nature progressions. Because what's inherent to every even negative value nature is unchanging positive value. And so it's a progressive value. So being negative value nature, like in relationship to ourselves, all the parts of our body share one positive identity and demonstration of how space nature shares one positive identity. We share it as a species, not being nations, but being correlation nature. That's what makes nations. Bodies are communication. So that's what this game is with New York. And it's also because while we start seeing the understanding all of a sudden what it really was, colonization's terror laws. You know, they still have our campuses playing terror theater out where people are only led to realize that blaming white people for this and other nations, too, still playing out that psychology of those tactics. In other words, being victim to those tactics still intellectually. These are our fronts we lost to because we lost to scientific interfront obfuscations of themselves that they don't even understand because they're only realized to this. And then the people with the insights of the legal natures of our side, forced to the juxtaposition of these shared policings of the commodity landscape world and forced market positions. It was not about business is not what drives this in standards. If you say the law, if everyone wants to, this is all they put all the water underground in every city. You know, why would it not be pouring down? Why would we still be with infrastructural standards that were forced with terror colonization laws before they even had cars? We still have these home sizes not even as great. You know, the colonial, the ranch, the raised ranch, the Victorian. Really, nothing gets better than the Victorian besides huge mansions or castles. And even those are cheap for what we would. This is what the alpha and the omega are juxtaposed in W, capital W. This is the tell. This is the honest tell that we are, that our education lets our nature be. That enables the honest tell between the woman and the man juxtaposed in the nature of the home in perspective. Because so when we're sharing the same, we're looking for the same active positive, unchanging positive. Because to understand that, we're the next to be on the same page, everyone on the same page. That reveals what people go pay a lot of money to go to nice places. It makes it look like a piece of junk. That's how great, how much power there is. See, we sent it all to space. It's not by accident. That's human value nature getting pushed away, because and that's negative value nature progression's cause. Being negative value nature, you can't you can covering up is even worse because it's a fake because you're in your nature pretend then you're self defending. What they do is have everyone training to try to find justice by hurting other people when everyone's a victim to the same nature of organized crime. Very few, a minority, is with it, but it has everyone fighting to stay this way because no one could see beyond 9 to 5 in the way we are invested. You know, so instead of hurting, is as quick as they throw a human life in jails, or kill it on this, or hurt it on the street too. All sides are hurt natures because of what's been in the maintenance of breaching methods right through our campuses, intercampuses, and see the motivations are with exploitations of police forms let to lie, with and in how they're already shared to policing natures, exploitations of vetting systems, and all kinds of natures of abuse of each age group actively, and there's nowhere to report things because of how they're using how we have different our natures of police forms using their self. What do they do? Report internal investigations of themselves. This is with other natures, and then they get court actors have to play out lies too with the databases. This is not by accident. This is how what they use terror laws for with slavery and things like that. See, no one ever gave anyone the language to explain it or to understand it. The language is to understand it is to say it's the nature of organized crime. We know that. The experts say that. I'm not an expert. The experts say, but see, expert. This is about America was about the legal natures who were the experts, who were telling lies, and they extorted. In other words, there were terrorist mass evil systems that no one understood. And this stuff they say was helped. This helped medicine and stuff like that. It didn't. Back before people were living longer than they do today. Not en masse, and not in relationship, especially not in relationship to industry and stuff like that, are still hurting people today. But that's job. That's not value by the one system. This is the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Campuses, the same campuses that hold these industries, they hold these ciphers incapable of being deciphered. They hold people forcing hurt, blamed on other lies and delusion. In other words, still progressing. People and because people won't take it seriously too. That's why people say Black Lives Matter. Because see that some people are trying to point out it's a bad legal argument because it's not on the finite proofs. It's not on the body of value proofs. Where it is on the body of value proofs, in other words, think about it. With the nature of this, the nature of these games is not between the people involved with conversations with the problems with hurt the conviction natures between people. It's what's causing that, what's causing the motivations for that, and what needs that. You know what I'm saying? And that's going to make problems no matter what if we just leave things forsaken the finite facts, and we have to understand how we have natures of nations that can't admit the finite facts, and they can't admit bodies of value and top down lies honestly. and that's in relationship to what's in the progressive that is called and in relationships. So in other words, they have these fights about facts and about treatments of morality and about logic, but they have bombs at their backs, each nation, other sides, fighting sides physically. But but think about it. The people of our nations don't want anything to do with that. You know, we wanted means that we had the colonists had to build better than we have today, safer, cleaner, have food. Well, we don't have it. It's not by accident. You know, it's not by accident we're on sick value nature systems. Well, all our lives, we have our whole lives. If we're gonna work so hard, the whole thing should be for healthcare. In other words, if they want to play that game too, because they have even the nature of the law. If we don't have the law free, they hold that. In other words, they use terror. Well, of course, they use all our charity, everything. Everything is guys in relationship to what's ignoring the finite facts, bodies of value, and top-down lies that are actively exploiting our bottom-up areas. Bottom, I'm not calling all of us, but especially where people are crying out and not being let heard, and they say, "Oh, good." People are hurtful, and they say, "Get a job" and stuff like that. And those opinion natures are masked because they have economic invested interests, you know, and other kind of natures of interest because of the nature of lies people tell. When the truth starts coming out, there are people exploiting how many ways, how many industries are in relationship to negative value nature progressions that could have been stopped yesterday. A lot, you know. So you can't chase jobs. You have to chase real value. You know, I have to admit our original losses and our stayed losses. Then we can just stay where we are. Not like, in other words, we were just put on a denatured landscape. This is what this this cartoon is about. The devil is as an archetypal criminal enterprise, and we're going to see how it causes criminal insidiousness natures because it causes negative value nature progressions and how insidiously, and we're going to see the wrongdoers. We're learning about the law, even though I'm not a lawyer. We're gonna you address facts, and we're not going to use litigation. We're gonna bring lawyers into this, to perfect our argument if we need in relationship. We're going to do business, but we're going to do it. We're going to own. We're going to let the landscape and the value nature standards themselves own it until they're free. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to understand that there's bedrock. For example, in California, there's houses sinking in the ground. Then people just go down. But this is all junk. You know what I mean? If real building, now we should have the machines, and it shouldn't be privately owned. It should be free. Should be pulling, especially where they have those little chop shop little houses, like in a movie Friday. In the Friday with Ice Cube, it's a good movie, but it shows the what's worse than the terrorist standards were before they had cars. The houses they built, like in Old Weathersfield, before that was even a state. These were colonies that were from different nations that were only realized with the same geopolitical campus connections of peace in relationship to the warring front of nations, and with database terror laws and roles with slavery multi-front, with the Spanish, with the English, with the French, in other words, everyone exploiting it, with African legal natures, agency natures, secret police people, international police forms. That's what is with international business. That is what forced, in other words, us with the world. In other words, right in the middle of revolution, we weren't even a country yet. They're already the forced to go into in the land of Tripoli when the song about that. That's like with where there's still problems today because of the nature of business forced on every nation, shared policing standards and methods, with lies and delusions with human standards, and with exploitations of that, only let realized inter science and per why. So, this is where we have a, a cartoon devil explain this to the other devils, and that's these criminal people are going to criminally re-engineer ancient revelations, and we're going to understand these revelations because they're already in our language. Alpha's body diffuses consciousness, freeing God, freeing, free, consciousness diffusions energy, freeing God. Remember, I said there's three natures of diffusion. That's what the Trinity is. The Holy Ghost is unchanging diffusion. I mean, is the diffusion of itself to itself. All space nature has one positive identity, just like our body does. In other words, all the parts of our body, all of its space nature, has one positive identity. When we have a kid, we have a wife, or you know, that's all. It's all that everything is in demonstration if we have the shared positive identity, and then beyond us too, as an Earth. And Earth has no criminal persuasions. They call what they call now RICO used to be called Organized Crime Control Act. Um, and I forgot what year it was. And then now they call it Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organization Act. This is a RICO. RICO our statutes drafted by incomplete legal natures, and there are proofs with breaching organized crime attached to narratives with the transition from Organized Crime Control Act into RICO, and in relationship to, for example, a Judge Nations or a Judge Winters had told an attorney Chevrolet not to defend himself in a trial. For example, one that was in 2006, where he was a co-defendant with a former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and this case was after it had been proven that they were involved with a part of a case that was in the 9/11 context, and there had been post-dating of documents from inside the court proven. So, in other words, someone post-dated the documents inside the court to appear late that day in front of the court, and there still are uncharged and insidiously being hid recorded proofs of fake witness, 9/11 witness testimony used with that. In other words, mine. They attached me to fake conversations. They even, they had forged doctors' names and everything like that. Bad things. But we're talking about the metaphysical snowman. In the colon, we have to name the victory. That's what in this game we're going to call it the victory, because it connects two independent natures of consciousness. And the nature is independent because it's unchanging. And our identity is longing the same positive progression nature that is of progressive value to it. It's of progressive value to itself perfectly. When we are not in that range, when we go outside of that range, it gets forced away. And negative, for example, real science demonstrates this with negative value nature progressions caused by the loss of the identity of unchanging positive value nature. This is what real science demonstrates in the existence, being of and as Real positive value three ways, always, which is the Metaphysic Snowman three ways, with correlation, which is discernment of the invisible, of the semi-invisible, you know, but discernible through correlation. Correlation nature. We'll learn about the correlative conjunction. This is why it is with English grammar. For example, use correlation. What's inherent to the difference? There's an and can be used as a correlative conjunction or as a coordinating conjunction. Now, what's the difference? The correlating conjunction, which is in relationship to what correlation is, the coordinating conjunction is a choice between it's this or this, or not this but not this. It's A or B. It's not that, therefore it's that. It's what's positive, is what is unchanging positive and what is not. Always. Not just as ourself in our relationship to our group or our partner, but in relationship to the entire body of correlation Earth. Because it is a nature in relationship to the progression of unchanging value. It being another nature of value. In other words, all values are in demonstration together actively of the unchanging space nature positive identity. So this is the metaphysical snowman. And we're going to learn this. Is the metaphysical snowman is distinct from the physical snowman, which there's different metaphysical snowmans we're going to use to teach this. Algebraic consciousness. I'm not a doctor. There are proofs that this is that psychology delusion propagates and is with natures of organized crime and with the roles of it originally and to date that we have to understand. Proofs, acts of it, lies, and delusions that we're going to use to correlate in relationship to lies and delusions we're going to use to correlate that are known with treatments of American history, and with that involved with natures of organized crime using the media historically and to date, and we're going to have to use forgiveness because we don't want in other words, anything that tries to develop, they just people aren't obvious. Criminal insidiousness. People are going to do whatever they have to destroy. That's what stayed the negative value nature progressions. Standard is forsaken, and the delusions with business that never let it have a business or standards to even can be able to compete from. Forget about it. They failed. These campuses. There are so many proofs, and we're going to take counter positions to the physical delusions that psychology forces with the sciences too. At the same time, defending facts treatments that are with lies and delusions. We don't have time for these games. So what we do is just make one game, and we make a business system where I don't own it. All I want to do is make it more, keep giving it means for more games. In other words, saying some people, there was an area that needs a lot of things, and they had a friend. And then it comes in the cartoon. And for example, we get every city that wants to put a character into it, we put it into the New York game. And we could even have guests after a while. we make our place good. You know, everyone, you know, we have guests from other cities, and we can work with other nations. You know what I'm saying? Don't leave business in the hands of these animals. You know, these legal natures, these sciences. Don't give them guys. They don't just give correlation to guys. You know, it's active and it works bottom up, and it's not being let because the sciences are holding lies and physical delusions and actively, and they're it's in relationship, and there's invested to the exploitation. They're invested with that as roles actively to the exploitation of all areas, especially the most imposition. And they're blaming it on white. On white. That's what the campuses are teaching. That's the extent of the education they let. They make it about culture because then they can play the game between it. In other words, they can play the games that hold the areas. Everyone thinking theater, everyone getting hurt because then they want to play like uh, where they could talk to people who they want, and then these people go, you know, this is no, this is a garbage. The way everyone's with psychology, with these schools, it's with in relationship to evidence fabrication methods with systemic fraud witnesses. No one even seeing they're putting witnesses just saying lies that are in progress with states actors to the same little areas with all these known juxtapositions of criminal enterprises and of natures of crime. In other words, and people say things like, with the criminal justice industry, predatory. They just say, "Oh, it's business. It's the industry." You know, the one say, "There's a job." You know, because that's how they're trained to defend that logic. And that logic is a nature that was only let as Oz realized to suit predatory sophistication to all areas. This is what's wrong with our nations. This is what's wrong with Syria. They have a denatured landscape, colonial infrastructure everywhere. It's being blamed on other things, on lies and on delusions. That's with the method. That's what we want to do in our gaming system. And that's what we should do there right now in Syria. That's how you beg, you know, when you have a bomb at your back. You make it serious generation ago. When you don't have the kids sit on the desk and play the. We have to understand too what stays exploitations of all. We need all together, all our age groups. We need our elderly, and they know things, but we can't have them defending like type. In other words, a lot of things they're incapable, they're wrong about, and they're no good. So their insights are being blocked by people that want to step forward and block the proofs of it. You know, which are the people who are not invested in it, not which has nothing to do with youth, which it just it has independent contractors too. Then they get persuaded by advertising needs because they're already stuck in the business in relationship to natures of guys, in relationship to shared terror policing negotiations. It's a wrong. It's a lie. It's a delusion to say that we never negotiated with terrorism. Our foundation is a negotiation with terrorism, and it's still terrorism. Not blaming it with these linguistic games, you know, and that's why they're saying Black Lives Matter. They're trying to say no one's taking everyone's lying about the finite facts, the bodies of value, and the top-down lies. No one cares, you know, because because the way they're invested to it, people aren't honest. In other words, the only opinions that people are going to make the opinions are the people who are trying to steer the conversation, stayed nuts, stayed exploited, you know. So it has nothing to do with racism. It has to do with what's using racism to keep offensive roles, to offensive evidence fabrication roles with our legal natures. who have been exploiting this to all areas. The only way they could let, in other words, the way they operate, the only way they were let train to be nature's breached. Because we have to understand we lost on many fronts in the American Revolution because of the sciences now. You know,